الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. There was once a very wealthy man who had gardens and orchards, and in his gardens there were also pomegranates. One day as he was visiting his garden, he asked a worker to bring him some good, ripe, sweet pomegranates. So the worker brought some, and the owner tested it, and he found it to be bitter. He said, "This one's not sweet, go get me another one." So again the worker went and brought back another one. This one was also bitter. And then he sent it back a third time. And this time also, it did not taste good. So he asked the worker that, "How long have you been working here?" He said, "I've been working here for so many years." He said, "And you still don't know the difference between a sweet pomegranate and a bitter one?" He said, "Well, I've never tasted your pomegranate, so I wouldn't know which ones are sweet and which ones are bitter." He said, "How is that possible? You say you've been working here for so many years and you haven't ever tasted a pomegranate." He said, "No, because I come here to work. I don't come here to taste things. I have never been told by you, the owner, that you're allowed to eat these pomegranates. So I've never dared to." So that man was very much taken and touched by this, by the honesty and the discipline of this worker. So much so that he decided to marry his daughter to him. And the man was of Turkish origin, and the woman was of Persian origin. So they got married, and after some time they had a child, a son whom they named Abdullah. This Abdullah, whose father's name was Mubarak, ended up becoming one of the greatest men of his time in terms of knowledge and piety and generosity. And of course, he became an icon for the people after him. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, was one of the great muhaddithin of his time. In fact, he is the teacher of, either directly or indirectly, of all the hadith compilers, all the great hadith masters of the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him this acceptance in the heart of people that wherever he went, people had love for him. In fact, once, apparently it was in the city of Iraq, where the king of that time, Harun al-Rashid, was there in one of his forts or one of his palaces, and there was a tremendous noise outside, like a stampede, and people were all rushing. Thousands of people were rushing in one direction, so much so that many of them, while they were running, their shoes got torn and their laces got ripped, and they just kept on running even without their shoes. So the servants, one of the maids of Harun al-Rashid, she looked over and said, "What is all this noise?" So she sees these people stampeding. So someone told her that, "Oh, that's Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he just arrived in town. He just came in town, so everyone is rushing to go and greet him." She said, "Wow, that's what I call kingship. That's a real king. Where people are going and running to meet him. My master, Harun, who is the actual king of the Muslim empire, he can't get people to come to him until his police go out and his men go out and they gather everyone, and there's all this big fuss and noise and protocols that are followed. Then a crowd is gathered. But this man, he probably doesn't even know it, that all of these thousands of people are going and they're running to meet him." So he was a man of, like his father, he was a man of extreme discipline, and he was a very scrupulous person. Once, while he was traveling in Sham, in Syria, somewhere in Syria, Palestine, in the Damascus area, he had borrowed a pen from someone. And he came back to his hometown, which was Maru in Khurasan. And Khurasan of that time would be somewhere between Afghanistan and southern Iran of today. So in Maru, which was his hometown, when he came back, he opened up his luggage, and when he unpacked, he realized that he had accidentally brought this pen that he had borrowed from someone. And this is a very long journey. It's a journey of weeks or probably a month or so that he had traveled. But he said, I have to return this pen. This is an amana. So right away, he packed his bags and went right back, all the way to Sham, all the way back to Damascus, just to deliver that pen back to that person, and then went back. And people said, you're crazy. He said, no, this is something that was entrusted to me. It doesn't belong to me. I have to get it back to that person at any cost. Otherwise, how am I going to answer for this on the Day of Judgment? When all of the trusts are brought, and people are going to be asked whether they fulfilled those trusts or not. And I borrowed something, it doesn't matter how small it is or how big it is, it's a trust and I need to return it. On one of his journeys, when he came into one town, there was a student of his who used to sit with him and take hadith from him. And this time when he went, that particular student wasn't there. So he asked around. He said, where's so-and-so? They said, oh, he's been thrown in jail. So what happened? Well, he had a debt, he had a loan that he couldn't pay. It was of 10,000 dirhams that he had taken, and then he was unable to pay. He declared bankruptcy, so the judge put him in jail until he made arrangements to pay this loan back. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak made some inquiries and very quickly went to the person who had to sort the matter out, who the money was due to. He said, I'm giving this money to you on behalf of so-and-so. It needs to be noted and documented, but my name must not be taken. And I forbid you from taking my name as long as I'm alive. And made the payment. The young man is released. Abdullah Mubarak went to another town. He had some work to do. He came back, and the young man was freed, and he came as usual. He came and met Abdullah Mubarak. He said, oh, where were you? He said, well, this is what had happened. I was jailed. And he said, so how'd you get out? He said, well, somebody came, some anonymous person came and paid my debt for me, my loan for me. And so Abdullah Mubarak was content that, my secret remains a secret. And that young man also did not find out until Abdullah Mubarak actually passed away. And he was a man of extreme generosity. When he would travel for Hajj, and every year he used to perform Hajj, he had divided his year into 3 portions. 1 portion for teaching hadith, 1 portion for the journey of Hajj, and 1 portion for going and striving in the path of Allah. So when he would go for Hajj, he would tell everyone, okay, I want everyone to pool together all the money that they have for this journey, and you deposit it with me, and I'll spend on you from that money. So everyone would bring their money and give it to him, and then he would spend and spend and spend, and he would give them, first class food, and he would buy clothing for them. When he would reach Medina and they had done whatever they needed to do there, he would say, okay, what did your family tell you to buy for you? He would buy all of those things for them. When they would go to Makkah, he would ask them, what did your family ask you to buy from Makkah? He would buy those things from them. And then the whole way back, he would treat them, feed them. When they would arrive back at their location, at their destination, then he would have a big banquet for them. And in that banquet, he would return all the money back. And they would say, what's this? He would say, no, Allah put barakah. I don't know what happened, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in your money, and it all came back. He would manage the expense of the whole caravan that would be accompanying him. So we've had some pretty amazing people in the past. Some very, very powerful personalities who made their mark on the history of mankind because of their ethics, their sacrifice, their akhlaq, their taqwa, and of course their knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to follow in their footsteps.